Right now, maybe it's trading is really hard, but sometimes it's easy, and you really want to survive for when it's easy, because it does get easy at times, but that's certainly not the case all the time.
You always have to stay on the top of your game. So thinking I'm a professional, meaning that, I guess in the standard term of a professional, meaning that, this is an income, I think is a really bad way to think, right? So do I feel like a professional trader? No, I do not. Primarily because I just find it more advantageous to just think of myself as someone who's constantly learning, constantly adapting, constantly changing.
Observe it like it's an alien planet and you're visiting the planet. And what do you see and what is working and how does it feel? Because there's so much clutter from what everyone else tells you to think. Because right now, you probably do pretty well if you're buying, because who cares what some old experienced buzzard like me thinks, who's seen a lot of stuff, because it's going up, I'm buying it and it's working. Great. And then you learn that works until it doesn't. And that's part of your path. And I think you get stuck a lot of times listening to other people and make your own observations, like see what hurts you and what helps you and what feels good. There's something inside of you that feels right. Like for instance, when I'm gonna have a bad trade, often I'm operating from subtle fight or flight. Like there's a feeling in my stomach, there's a little fear, there's a little like forcing feeling, you know what I mean? You're getting like there's an uneasiness and you ignore it and it's a mistake. Or there's a quick little revenge trade. There's a bad trade and then a really quick flurry of bad trades after. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I just made it twice as bad. How did that happen? 3 times as bad. And it's really paying attention to that stuff. And I think a lot of that comes a little bit later when you can trust yourself and you know what you want to do. But in the beginning, it's just an experiment process. It's first and foremost, manage your capital, don't blow up. Like manage your risk in the beginning, take small bets, lots of small bets, and see what sticks. It's like that quote, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And then when it stops working, it's like, okay, this has worked for 6 months, it's not working anymore. I'm frustrated, I'm stopped out, market is changing. And then I need to figure out what's gonna work again. And that's how you grow. I mean, eventually you find one tool and that's great. You have that tool for life once you find it. And it might stop working for 3 years, 3 months. It's a style could go out, it doesn't work anymore. Everyone's copying it and doing it. It's being reverse engineered. And then eventually something else works. And then after 10 years, you have 5 or 6 things that you can do and they keep coming back in style. And I think that's why the thinking process is important, because in this world we're in with algorithms and machines, anything that's predictable or programmable is going to get wiped out and you're not going to be able to do it. But if you have an open world strategic mindset with a lot of different variables, it's very hard to program that, and it's going to ensure that you have a lot more success.
Once you learn how to ride a bicycle, it's hard to remember what it's like not how to ride a bicycle, right? And you speak English, it's your second language, and it's hard to imagine what it was like before you could speak English. And what I do remember is for the first 5 years or so, even for the first 10 years, I would have tremendous stress trading. I always felt like I was ripped up inside, that I was fighting the market and the market was constantly beating me. And it was just a miserable feeling. And at some point, it just started to melt away. And now, I'm really at peace in the market. Every day, I like it. It's really enjoyable because I sit there and everything that's happening, I look at it and say, oh, I see what the bulls are doing. I understand what the bears are doing. They're balanced here. Oh, they're not balanced here. By being able to read what the market is doing and what the forces are and who's winning, it just makes it first of all fun, because I feel like I'm seeing stuff that a whole bunch of people are not seeing. It's fun to see something that nobody else is seeing, or not many people are seeing, and it's also fun to watch it unfold. You see something happening and you know what the possible outcomes are, and certain outcomes are more likely than others, and you just see it start to unfold, and it's just really satisfying.
The ultimate journey to know yourself. It's really about you and how you can connect with something inside of you that wants to express itself in the market. And I don't know if I can answer that question for anybody, but it's going to be trial and error, lots of reaching out to people, lots of things that don't work, kind of finding out, back to that point of finding out what you're not to find out what you are. It's questions, discussions with people who have done it, questions with, reach out to people on the podcast, reach out to whoever, be active in developing your network. I was very active. I used to hunt down traders at my firm and, go to dinner with them and asked to see their trades, and I was really active in studying successful people. I really worked at it, and I picked up a few things along the way. And then I realized some things that aren't going to work for me. I thought, this is great that this person can do this, but I can't tolerate it. I'm not patient enough for this, or this is too aggressive for me. And it was just an eye opener, and that was kind of my way through it. So again, I think it's best answered kind of just sharing those stories, because that's what it worked for me. And I think that if you go about it that way, and there's no one set path, and then you'll feel good about what you're doing.
What you think is what's going to manifest itself. I think it's anything in life. I mean, it could be, with relationships. It could be a particular business you're starting up. If you're a professional athlete, in other words, our thoughts define who we are. So, and you can channel that into being adept at your profession as well.
As humans, we want to be entertained. We want excitement. And a lot of people feel that there's no way trading can be that easy. I'm one of the few people that actually disagrees with most people. I think trading is one of the easiest things that you can do, but it's difficult. It's like walking 1,000 miles. For most people, walking in its essence is pretty simple, just walking. But walking 1,000 miles is difficult, right? That takes time, it takes discipline, it takes consistency, it takes a drive and a perseverance. Trading is just pure math, man. If you lose 10 cents for every time you make 40 cents, you're gonna be a very profitable trader. That's trading right there. And you can make trading as simple or as hard as you want to. And for the people who say trading is very difficult, it is difficult, but it is very easy, right? It's just simple math. The hard part is right here. It's mastering yourself, mastering your emotions, and knowing when not to be a complete moron. And that's usually my biggest struggle.
There are three major psychological issues when it comes to dealing with uncertainty. I'm not good enough. And the moment you feel you're not good enough, you need someone to blame, usually yourself. And that blame then turns to a bit of shame. So you start avoiding it and you start making excuses. And when I'm teaching, I thought, yes, that's true. I see that pattern all the time, because you should follow the rules. With benefit of hindsight, you always know what you should have done. Mm-hmm. And when you don't do it, you start to blame yourself and then get some shame and then say, okay, let's find another set of rules. Yeah. Let's find another system.
Just know that it's part of the path. It really is. For me, so I can tell you, usually stories are better because it's hard for me to tell you how you're going to be. But I started with the ability to always make money, but I lost a lot of money. I would make it, give it back, make it, give it back. Other people have different problems. So I had to learn to not give it back. So am I giving it back because of how I made it? Is it just you're reckless when you make it, so you're reckless when you lose it? Or am I getting euphoric at the top, which often happens to me, and that's how I give it back? So I still give money back after I make it, but I'm getting better at moderating those cycles. So that's my personal challenge. And the hard work and all that stuff, the thinking I have to work hard all the time, that all goes into that. But I think for someone else, it's much the same thing. It's trying different things and then finding out what's your problem. Is it listening to somebody else after you've been listening to yourself and then you blow up? Is it holding losers? Is it you can make it but you give it back? You can fix those boom and bust cycles if you make money and give them back. There's things you can do. Oftentimes when I was day trading at my firm, if I had a really good morning, like say I made 2 or 3 times in the morning what I wanted to make in the day. The afternoon session, I would actually cut my size down in half and say, I'm only risking a part of my day on half size. And when I did that, I would often really add to my day, sometimes double my day, because I was so loose with half size. And I knew that if I lost a little bit, I was going home still with a good day. So that was when you're trading well, those are the kind of things you do. You get out of the trade when it's not even gone against you. It doesn't feel right, you get out. You actually get out when you're making money sometimes because it doesn't feel right. And when you're struggling, it's like, I have to wait for it to hit my stop. Everything has to be max pain. And I think you learn it doesn't have to be that way. And that's kind of part of going through it.
They don't look at facts anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with traders when they don't keep a journal. They don't know, okay, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What do I need to change? And that whether you're a mechanical trader or a discretionary trader. Because as a mechanical trader, you have to ask yourself that question. Okay, is the set of stats coming out, or the losses coming out, such that it's normal losses, so I just keep executing the system? Or have the assumptions changed so the system's no longer operating?
Yeah.
So to me, keeping a journal is absolutely essential.
I think if you journal a lot, if you behind me it's up on the top shelf, but if you journal a lot, you can go back and look at how you handled certain problems. Like, for example, right now, what we're seeing with the central banks, I've got journals that I can go back to from 1998, and how did I trade currencies during the implosion of the long-term capital management hedge fund and the Asian contagion and the implosion within Russia. I can go back to those journals from 98. I can go back to my journals even from Gulf War I. How was I trading crude and gold? I can go back to journals from 2008 and look at. So I think sometimes if we journal honestly about what we're seeing and observing, we can go back and again reference, how did we get out of that problem back then? What were we processing? What were our challenges, and how can that help us now? Because history does repeat itself again and again. So I'll refer back to the old me, and how did I manage it back then?
But honestly, all your blow up days come down to something similar. It's a emotional, psychological thing. It's usually your own pattern blowing up. It's FOMO. It's your buddy had an idea, or he's doing well and you're chasing. It's you missed the move and now you're buying the highs. It's you wanted to wait for a pullback, but you couldn't wait. So then you buy it, and then you buy more, and then it blows up. All that stuff that's the coaching work. That's the deep work. You can plot and look at those, but you're just going to look at them and say, oh, well, I shouldn't have done that. But I don't know if we're getting the lesson until we really go into why. So why did that happen? And then you can ask like the 5 whys. Why'd you buy it? I bought it because of this. Why'd you do that? Because my friend bought it and he's trading well and I wanted to kind of piggyback on him. Why'd you do that? Because I'm losing confidence in myself because my stuff's not working. Why is your stuff not working? Because the market's running up every day and my strategy is looking for pullbacks. Why is that happening? Maybe the market's changing. I need to take a break. Okay, we land on that and we can kind of move forward. So that's the kind of thinking I try to do versus looking at my journal every day. And I kind of internalize this. You kind of get this just without having to journal, I think. I would never tell anyone not to journal. If you want to journal, journaling makes you feel like you're doing everything you can, which is great. But it also can be a guilt, like a checklist task where you feel like, I'm a good boy, I journaled today, I should have success. But a lot of times it doesn't work that way. And that's why I like the throwaway journal sometimes, because it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm doing something for today, then I'm going to discard it and move on tomorrow. And that often feels better. So I've tried to save my trades, and I still do sometimes. But if you're going to save your trades, I think the best thing to do is save your good trades that are the best version of what you want to be and really focus on replicating those. And on your bad days, save those, let yourself cool down, and then try to go into the 5 whys or the thought process of why you blew up. So I think those are probably the takeaways on the review process.
What I would suggest to help with the improvement is you do maybe 6 or 7 trades, see what you did right, see what you did wrong, and then say, okay, this are the things I didn't do that I would like to have done, I should have done correctly. Make some action to change it, keep a record of what you did, see whether or not it worked, and then change it again if you have to. So if you keep doing that 6 or 7 trades, especially for beginners, you have to improve. And that to me is what goes in the journal. So in the journal, your equity journal, of course, just your entry, your pattern, your setups, etc. And then your psych journal is just any qualitative event that might have impacted your trading. Whatever you do, however you start off the journal, you need to, I think, coalesce it into a learning experience. So if you're free flowing, after the free flow, look at it and say, okay, what have I learned from this? What have I learned from this free flow? And then that has to be a little bit structured. Some people are already structured, right? So but you must always have at the end of your entry, what did I learn from this? Even if you said, I learned nothing from this, at least you've given it some thought. I think that's what's key to the psych journal.